Hey, this is Joseph from Worship Guitar Basics. In today's lesson, I'm going to be going over how to pick up your guitar for the first time and play your very first chord. This lesson requires zero prior guitar experience, as we'll be going through the steps to lay the foundation for playing your first chord and beyond. So, to start off, I'm first going to show you how to hold the guitar. And to do this, you're going to take a guitar, whether it's an acoustic guitar or an electric guitar, and you're going to place it on your right leg, like so. Then what you're going to do is take your forearm and place it up here on the guitar. And so you want to just rest it up against the guitar in a position that lets you reach the strings. So if you have a shorter arm and need to go over a little, or a longer arm and need to go back, position it where it will let you touch the strings. Your left hand is then going to go around this, which is the neck of the guitar. And I'll be showing you where to put this hand more specifically later on once we play your first chord. So, now that we know how to hold the guitar, I'm next going to show you how to hold the pick. So to do this, you'll take a pick. What I like to do is take my thumb and put it on the back side of the pick, horizontal to the pick. And then on the front side of the pick, I like to put my pointer finger and point it down. So as you can see here again, on the back side, it's horizontal, and on the front, my index finger is pointing down. So now that we know how to hold the pick, I'm next going to go over the strings of the guitar. And you'll also be able to follow along with this image up here to my left, which will show you the strings. It's just like looking down at the guitar. So there's 6 strings on the guitar. Starting with the one that's closest up the top, up this way, that's your low E string. Then going down, you have an A, then you have a D string, a G string, a B string, and a high E string. So these are the 6 strings of the guitar. You might also hear them referred to as numbers, and if 1 through 6. And for that, what you have, if you start at the bottom of the guitar with the high E, that's your first string, then going up 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So I recommend going by the notes rather than the numbering, as it really reinforces as you're learning the notes of the guitar. So again, E, A, D, G, B, and E. So you'll want to memorize that, and one way that you can do that is by looking at a mnemonic acronym. And what that is, it essentially puts words to these strings. So for example, instead of E, A, D, G, B, E, you could remember every amateur does get better eventually. And so there are thousands of others of those acronyms online as well. I'll post them down below, but feel free to either make up your own or pick one that lets you remember the strings. Again, you want to memorize E, A, D, G, B, E. So now that we know the strings of the guitar, I'm next going to show you how to count the frets. And so what the frets are, you'll see these metal things going across your guitar, and they're going up on the neck. So what you do is you start off with the first one, and that's the first fret. Then you have the second fret, the third fret, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and all the way up. And so most guitars will actually have, if you look at the top of your neck, you'll actually see dots for the frets. And usually they'll have a dot on 3, 5, 7, 9, as well as 12 and above. You can also see on the fingerboard, some guitars will also have dots showing where the frets are. Again, as you're starting out, I would just count them. So, now that we've counted the frets, we need one more thing to learn before we can play our first chord. And that is numbering your fingers. So on your left hand, your pointer finger is finger 1, your middle finger is your second finger, your third finger, well, your ring finger is your third finger, and your pinky is your 4th finger. And the thumb does not have a number because you don't use it for the most part. So again, fingers 1, 2, 3, 4. So now that we have the numbers of our fingers, we're next going to go into playing your first chord, which will be a G chord. And to do this, you're going to first take your second finger and place it on the low E string, up here, on the 3rd fret of that low E string, as you can see here. And what you want to do, you want to place your finger as close to the fret on the right as you can without touching it. You don't want to play it over here you want to play it as close to that fret as you can, and this will help you get the best sound. Then what we're going to do with our pointer finger, which again is our first finger, we're going to put that on the second fret of the A string. So you can see right there. Then what we're going to do is take our third finger and put it on the third fret of the B string, right here. Then we're going to take our fourth finger, which is our pinky, and place it on the third fret of the high E string. So just to give you a closer look, again, we have our middle finger on the third fret of the E string. We have our first finger right here on the second fret of the A string, our third finger on the third fret of the B string, and our fourth finger on the third fret of the high E string. So this is a G chord, and this is a very common chord. From here we'll be able to play many other chords. So with your finger still in this position, I will say it probably is hurting you a little, and it will until you can practice more, as well as get your calluses built up. Over time you won't even feel it anymore. So if it's hurting and you're practicing this, it's fine to take a break and get back on it today or tomorrow, and eventually again it won't hurt. So now that we have our fingers down, what we're going to do with the pick in our right hand, you're going to drag it across the strings, which is called strumming. So here's your G chord. So one other thing to point out, if you're playing this chord and it sounds like this, with a lot of rattling, again, as I mentioned, put your fingers as close to the fret on your right as you can. And the other thing to point out is that for the D and the G strings, you actually want them open. So you want to make sure with the fingers that you're putting down, you're not touching any other strings except the string you're meant to press. One other thing I want to touch on before we end for today is your wrist position. So I'm going to go over here to show you. What you want to do is keep your wrist as straight as you can. This will help you be able to reach the strings better, as well as prevent injuries later on. You don't want to have your wrist bent this way or bent that way. Again, you want to position it where you can have your wrist fairly straight, as well as putting your thumb on the back of the neck to support it. And putting your thumb here is crucial as well, as in front, it's going to allow you to press down on the strings harder and get a better sound. So there you have it. You've learned your first chord. In the next lesson, I'll show you how to learn and read chord charts, as well as learn how to play additional chords. Thanks for stopping by.